Gonna have a moment of silence and then we'll say the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the States. Did everyone have a chance to review the minutes of the previous council meetings and the joint meeting with the commissioners on April 21st?
I'll move.
Second.
Jim McKee and seconded by Denise. All of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
7-0 or 6-0. Report of collections as submitted. Did everyone have an opportunity to look at the collections? Does anybody have any comments or questions regarding those? Hearing none, can I get a motion to approve? Dudley? May I get a second?
Second.
Todd? All of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
6-0. Transfers, treasurer for $1,254.55 from postage to tax outsourcing, from capital outlay to tax outsource, and from supplies to tax outsource. Also, 911 dispatch for $65 from travel and mileage to contractual services. Any questions or concerns regarding the transfers? Hearing none, may I get a motion? Dudley?
Second.
Seconded by Jeff Fischerow. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. 6-0. Department head reports,
Ready to go here?
please.
All right. Thank you. Morning.
Good morning.
Just a few things, collections, we're staying ahead of where we was last year, in April to compare, we're quite few dollars ahead of where we was. Runs, I'll say about the same, might get a little less, but not that much, you know how things fluctuate. So, just an overview of the budget. I know you guys watch, look at where we're at, my budget and that. My full-time overtime has always been a concern. We're paid out less than what we had, budgeted. I got a projected number, what we should pay out each pay period. We've been staying under that number every pay period. So staying pretty good with that. But what happens with that is people are taking vacation time in that. So when they're taking vacation time, for law, they have to be paid at straight time, which is coming out of the regular line item, not out of the overtime. So there's a little bit of difference in that, but we'll be able to move some money around later in the year to take care of that. Part-time pay, you guys have seen, as of right now, what's posted, that does not count this pay this Friday. We've paid out over half of what I requested. So we are utilizing part-time to cover shifts, but as you know, we increased our hourly rate, try to stay competitive. So we've utilized that money. We're averaging between $5,300 to $5,500 per pay. So with that, if you figure that up, we probably got another 6 to 7 days that will come out, which will need some time to August. So we need to discuss, maybe not today or sometime, what we want to do. Do we want to do an additional, or do you want to move money to overtime? Just keep in mind that money in overtime is going to have to help offset the base salary line items. So just food for thought. I think we're setting okay right now. We got a few days before, but I don't want to wait too late. How we want to handle that.
Okay.
So Truck. We're probably looking August.
Is this the remount?
This is the remount. Now, I had a chance to talk with Aaron and the commissioners. I will tell you right now, if we order a brand new truck, you're looking at 2 years right now. We order one today.
Mhm.
So we're looking at some options. The company I bought the 2 brand new ones from, they do build pre-builds already. It won't be set up the same way we have our present truck set up. We didn't make any major changes to it, so he said he might go help us out and possibly putting those what we have on ours in that and a new truck that's pre-built. If that's the case, they can try to do it twice a year. They do about 10 to 15 trucks, like in the spring, and another 10 to 15 in the fall. Don't know the cost, but that may be an option we need to look at. We're getting close to budget time, so just put that in for you guys want to try to do. But if we were to order a brand new one, it's 2 years out.
In next year, when we get on our cycle, trying to every
Yes.
year.
So, but that's where I'm concerned, where I'm thinking if we order, you're up to 2027, 2028, so it'll take us out of our rotation. So we may have to look at that pre-build and possibly. I think we may have, knock on wood, may have figured out the issue with the DEF system on that one truck we were having some issues with. There were some recalls on it and it hit the Ford dealership. Fingers crossed it fixes it, but I'll take all your time up on the DEF system. I'm very happy about it, but I don't have it.
Right.
Other than that, that's all I've got. If there's anything for me.
No, I was gonna ask you about the remount, but you addressed that, so. Okay. Thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you. Good morning, Tina. How are you?
I just want to let you guys know the sirens that I've been working on. We do not take care of those. I did find leases, old ones. They actually expired 2022. But it also said that the chemical stockpile goes away before then, which I'm thinking I wasn't here, so maybe 2014, maybe by the time it was done. So really, we shouldn't have been taking care of those. But I reached out to everybody; they're on board. I did say I would help them if they want the sirens to work, just maybe on all the stuff instead of leaving them home. We are doing that. Once I get a quote, they'll decide if they want to keep them. If not, we're still not helping them.
That's in southern part of the county, isn't it?
Yeah, it's Kate's Kingman.
Okay.
Yes. Saved a little money on. I don't know if you guys remember the ban weather.
Yes.
We had, okay. So we have to pay for each user. Well, if the users aren't using them, nothing against them. There's no reason to pay for it. So I called them and kind of removed some. So it went from 3,150 to 995. Sorry. Okay. So I think that's good. But the highway uses it. You know, at first they said if you want to take it, but no, they use it is a good. So that's all I got. I you guys know I got my water out of the end of the building. Get ready to get it painted. So
Okay.
that'll be done. I'm not gonna trailer parked in there. Once we get that all organized and stuff, I'll have to show you.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you.
That's all I got. You got anything for me?
No, it's Jason Lewis on.
Yeah.
Jason, do you have anything for us?
No, I do not, guys.
Okay, I have a question for you in regards to the community crossings grant and the changes that are going to be coming in the future for that. Do you know anything about that?
I was told by, I had my quarterly meeting with NDOT last week, and they told me that the changes will be for one calling a year instead of two now. Other than that, they didn't know when that was going to take effect, and it might hinder some of the projects we are looking at doing in the future.
Okay. Good enough. Thank you, Jason.
Thank you.
Hey, Jason, I know there's 2 call outs on community crossings every year, but we can only apply for one. Is that correct?
We apply for one just so we can get the full amount in
Okay,
one shot. So yes.
okay.
Do you think that it will diminish the amount that we can receive?
That is another question they're trying to hash out, and I don't know if they'll drop that back down to the $1 million instead of the 1.5 million. So that's internal discussions between NDOT, and they're kind of vague on what's going on right now. So
Okay. Thank you.
speaking of our community crossings project, it has gotten started. They are almost done with Schoolhouse Road, and then they'll be moving to 800 South.
Okay. Good enough. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Anybody else here? Jenny,
If you're getting updates from the building, or if we're gonna discuss that at a later date, or just one that be.
would you like to address that, Aaron?
Ethan's. That's last week, that's all I heard, so.
Sounds good. Do you have anything else for me?
Do not, not at this time. Thank you.
Hey, do you know how much the state's gonna take out of the
So our new budget for the HFI is gonna be $100,000, just right at $100,000. So, greatly decreased from 338,000. Yeah, decreased. Yeah, we're at 100,422. So. So yeah, we did have a health board meeting last week. You know, we definitely had to make some adjustments in that budget. So we'll have to see how that's gonna play out.
that'll be immediately?
I'm sorry.
Is that immediately?
So, we'll submit that budget June 1st, and then it won't take effect until 26th, January 1st of 26. They did make some changes, immediately to our, expectations of our department. So we do have to make some changes there as far as our programming and that sort of thing. So. Yeah, so we can expect that. But it's a little bit hard to get this year. So, I mean, I want to say that kind of things that we did all talked about that previously, we kind of expected this to happen. So I'm glad that we planned the way we did. So, I mean, we don't have to eliminate any staff. We don't have to, the programs that we implemented, they were high impact, low budget. So I think that we planned accordingly. So I think that overall we're sitting okay. Because our company's gonna look a little different now.
Thank you, Jenny. Any other department heads? Aaron, do you have anything you would like to? Roger, since you're here, do you have anything for the council? Thank you.
Could I ask Roger a question?
Sure.
Roger, what's the status of Dolphin Solar? The status of Dolphin Solar on their application?
They have not submitted any of the technical information back. Their status is that, they will not start construction until those technical comments are addressed. The last letter that we got from their legal is, basically this, in a nutshell, they said that we understand that we have a permit, we don't have a construction permit. That is dependent on addressing all the technical comments, those will be forthcoming before construction starts.
Okay, our zoning ordinance law states that they have 60 days to comply with your request. Have they met that requirement?
The 60 days, I need a lawyer on that.
Well, there's no, it's black and white, it says 60 days, you don't need a lawyer. Have they complied with that 60-day requirement within our zoning laws?
Mr. McKee, I don't think the 60 days is clear black and white because it states it in the application portion. That the application has to be submitted as submission within 60 days, which they met. But it's vague on responding to comments, technical comments. But again, I'm out of my.
I don't think they've met the letter of our zoning law.
I'm okay with that, as long as, legal takes a look at it and helps us time.
Thank you, Roger.
While we're speaking on solar, I did get information on House Bill 425 that was sitting on the governor's desk to be signed last week. He did sign that. I spoke with Matt Commons about it yesterday afternoon, early evening, and I wanted a definition from him on what exactly it meant. And the summation of that is any commercial wind or commercial solar would need to go through zoning and permitting. They are not exempt from the portion of House Bill 425 that says any other utility like nuclear power plant, coal, fire power plant, they would not have to have zoning or permitting at the county level, but commercial wind and solar does have to have zoning, go through zoning and permitting. Also, the extension of moratorium timeframe. This is due to take effect July 1 of this year. So what we voted on as a commission and as a council to extend the moratorium to December of 2026 supersedes House Bill 425 because it does not go in effect until July 1. So what we did will stay in effect. But if we want to, at the end of December, prior to December 30th, if we wanted to extend that moratorium any further, we can only do it 1 year. So I just want everyone to be aware of that. Unless they make changes or repeal it, that's the way it stands right now. Does anybody have any questions in regards to that? I don't know that I can answer them, but you can ask them. Jeff?
That's the way I.
Okay. Moving on, does anybody have anything else for any of the department heads while they're here? Okay. We're going to talk about the ADA compliant compliancy that Tina does in her position, and the way I understand it is Tina here. Could you explain it to us, Tina, exactly how this works for those that don't?
We have always just taken care of the ADA previous director, and when I took office, when I started to take office, I was like, well, I'll see if I'll do flood plan ADA because I didn't know much about it. All that does is I keep up on the paperwork, I make sure it's compliant, I make sure it goes to the ADA. That's how you get your crossing grants. I watch webinars to stay up on the training. I answer questions when individuals call in about the ADA. I Hope Springs has called in about it. If I don't know it, I have to get with the ADA to take care of it. But that's how it's always been. So I just continue to do it.
Okay, thank you, Tina. When Tina gets paid to do this, she would submit an invoice to the auditor's office for payment. We have since found out from SBOA that it cannot be done that way anymore. It was paid out of NVH. We can't pay it out of NVH. We don't understand why we can't do that because it helps them get their community crossings grant. So moving forward, it has to go through the salary ordinance. Am I correct, Dudley, in thinking that? So it has to go through a salary ordinance. We have to vote on it. Taxes have to be taken out of it. We can't front load those taxes. So she gets the full amount. SBOA says we cannot do that. So we would have to make an amendment to the salary ordinance. It has to be advertised and we have to vote on it. So I guess we need to, I don't think we need to discuss it any further unless you want to discuss it further.
Tina, I'll add, I know that's the way it was when Joe was in there. We just did a claim for 2,000. And that's the same way election board members were paid. It was just a claim. Well, now taxes have to come out of anybody that's on the commission, like the election commission. So we have to take the taxes out. The state board of accounts has told us.
I think it should be corrected.
Yeah.
The only thing I think should still happen, you should get paid what you were supposed to get paid. That's not been on that office or the individual doing it. So I don't see how you can go backwards. Because technically, I haven't asked for anything else on top of that for every year we've done it. A percent of extra work this has to go into it when they change on their end. I don't change on my end. So that's how I feel.
And I can understand, but I mean, if we do that, then we gotta look at election board members and all the other commissions that are on boards. They're gonna want the same amount, I mean, and you would have had a 1099, right? So
I have that.
okay,
I did
before,
Joe had that.
well,
So
you should have
we-
received a 1099 and paid taxes on that.
Right. So who's the one that let the ball drop on that?
No, I don't know.
Well, I
State Board of
have
Accounts.
this year and I'll decide what to do for next year. So just keep that in mind, you know,
Yeah,
because it does have all the other stuff you have to do for it.
Right.
Okay,
Mhm.
and the floodplain too, as soon as you get the zoning, you probably need to be doing that out. So,
Put it together.
okay,
All right, thanks, Tina.
American Disabilities
Yeah,
Act.
American Disabilities Act.
That's what I thought.
Yes.
We have to have somebody in the county that makes sure things are ADA compliant.
we have to fill out reports with the
Mhm.
state that tell them that we are ADA compliant. Like on our highway department,
That depends on the grants then?
yes, like community crossings grant,
to do the roads.
yeah.
So, and it does not have to be a county, so if someone stepped up to do it, so you just have to remember that.
As long as they do all the
And
reporting.
I'm just saying, I'm not trying to be a pain, but I don't see how you say from the get-go, 8 years ago, this is your amount.
Right,
And now you're saying, now this is your amount, you're going backwards. I'm not
Right.
asking for extra money. I'm asking to say where I want.
right,
So,
right.
Just wondering, how does it connect that you get ADA compliant, American Disabilities Act compliant, and get grants for community crossings?
That is an end-all question.
yeah.
They're the ones that set the rules. We're just the ones that have to follow it in order to get the grant money or to fix our roads.
So that if you're not
We
compliant,
can't, right,
then you don't get money for.
that's right. We're not even considered to go into the pool of applicants.
Got it.
Yeah.
I understand.
Yep. Exactly. I've already spoken to Jessica Anderson at the APC meeting in regards to her budget. She is aware. She talked to Kim, I believe, and said that she understands what her budget is, so we're going to strike her from the agenda. No. Her budget falls underneath the APC. She doesn't have a budget on her own, and it's up to their discretion to give her money for her needs. Okay, one thing I would like to say before Baker Tilly discusses SB1, among other things, I would just like everyone to hold all of their questions in regards to SB1 until Jason has time to let us all of the information. So, Mr. Simler, Baker Tilly.
Thank you. Jason Similar, Baker Tilly, with me as manager Mike here, something that together the PowerPoint presentation. And this made nice that woman dipped walk in the room. They didn't know where I was.
Thank you.
Like right down the different way. So I guess to start off, yes, we're here to talk about Senate Bill 1, and I'll tell you that it came to law a couple of weeks ago, and then DLG had House Bill 1427 passed that changed some of the information. It really didn't do as much changing as we hoped. But a lot of this is still being reviewed and interpreted. I think it's about a 300-page bill. So we did want to put together a summary of our understanding right now. There's a couple of things that we've got conflicting information from some attorneys. I think some of them still reviewing internally and kind of getting interpretations from the Department of Government Finance. But I think this will be a good summary of what is expected to occur in the next couple of years, unless things change. So, as I go through this, if you do have questions on a particular slide, feel free to stop me. We can address it. There's a lot of information. There's a lot in Senate Bill 1. I mean, I'll just kind of say everything that we do about property taxes and local income tax kind of got turned upside down. So kind of what we have planned and anticipated in the future, that's going to change a lot here in the next couple of years. So feel free to stop me if you have any questions on a particular slide. I'll start on page 2. As you've heard, from months and months and months, one of the main goals of the governor was there to reduce property taxes, especially for residents. And that's what page 2 tried to accomplish and has accomplished. And one of the first things, as you know, for homeowners, if you think about your taxes, your own personal or your own property taxes for your homestead, you have your gross assessed value, what you're assessed at from the county assessment office. And I think you just probably got your estimated assessments for 2026 here just in the last couple of weeks. Well, that's your gross assessed value. But as you know, what you actually pay taxes on is much less than that because you have deductions, homestead exemptions, you come out to your net assessed value. And that is going to be changing and also increasing over the life of the next year. So in 2025, your assessed value on your house, your gross assessed value, you reduce that by $48,000. That's standard deduction. And then you got an additional homestead deduction. It's changed over the last couple of years. So for 2025, you've got an additional deduction of 37.5% of your house. As you can see in 2026 for next year, that standard deduction doesn't change. It's still $48,000, but now you're going to get an additional 40% off your house. And then beyond that, once you have your net tax bill calculated, you're going to get a credit of $300 or 10% of your tax bill. And I'll go through the example of this here in a little bit. So that's an additional credit that homeowners are going to receive. And the 65 and older and the disabled owners get additional credit, $150 and $125. And then you see in 2027, the standard deduction decreases a little bit, but the supplemental homestead deduction increases to 46%. And you can see gradually the standard deduction decreases over time until 2031. You no longer have a standard deduction, but you basically almost 67% of your assessment deducted. So what we did, if you look at page 3, this is just looking at the assessed value. So this is just kind of an average home that's with an assessed value of about $240,000. In 2025, you can see the net assessed value of that home. So on a $240,000 assessed value house, it actually paid taxes on $120,000. You can see in 2026 with the change instead of Bill 1, now they're going to be paying taxes on $115,000. And you see that's going to gradually increase until 2031. That same $240,000 house now only going to be paying taxes on $80,000. So that again, that's going to be great. I'm going to show this to be great for the taxpayer in most cases. But if you think about your budget, where you get your revenue from, your tax base, just for this one house, their tax base is going from $120,000 to $80,000. Think about that for every home in the county. That's going to have a decrease in your tax base, which is going to increase tax rates and increase circuit breaker losses. That's what our fear is. You're going to hear that's a common theme through most of these slides. So any questions on the homeowners?
This is based on no changes in your assessed value, and we know every year our assessed value.
Yeah, here in the last couple of years, they've increased quite a bit in a lot of counties. So you're right, that is assuming a constant assessed value. One of the concerns I've heard from some auditors and assessors is it's changed in the last couple of years. If the economy takes a turn, some of those increases that we've seen here recently, they can go back down. So that's why I kind of kept it flat.
Yeah.
That's a good point. But if they have to do it up or down, the deduction, they can put it in a correlation.
Right.
Page 4, not only did they see a reduction in net assessed value for the homestead, the 1%, but they also looked at incentivizing or assisting with the 2%, which is rental property, agricultural land, and like assisted living. So you can see now they are also before, unless you gave any of those individuals, the taxpayers, a tax abatement, they really didn't receive any deduction credits. Now you can see in 2026, they're going to start receiving 6% deduction on their assessed value. They're going to pay taxes on it. And you can see that's going to gradually increase. 2031, they're going to get 33% reduction.
Did they change the land values in a place like 2,500? Did they change? Yeah, did they change that to 2,100 or something?
Well, I don't know if this for 26, I'll look that up, but they did change to formula 4 farmland. And that's what we have there, that footnote at the bottom there. And it's anticipated that that change in the formula is going to decrease the 80 per acre for farmland. So again, both of these changes in the net assessed value calculation benefit the taxpayers, but it's going to really make a bite for the tax base. Page 5, another one's commercial property. You probably heard talking about this a lot. This got out a lot of as well. First of all, the minutes exemption. So this is all going to have assessed value of over $80,000 this year. They don't have to file a personal property with a pre-one. They don't have to pay taxes on that. In 2026, it was originally increased to $1 million. So any company had $1 million with equipment or less didn't have to pay property tax. That was changed in House Bill 1427 to keep it at 80,000 for 2026. But you can see in 2027, under the current bill, any company pays has $2 million of the equipment or less should have to pay personal property tax.
Does this only affect businesses, or does it affect people in the ag industry, farmers that purchases equipment?
I'll have to double check to see if it does. Is the 80,000 impacted now?
Yes.
I think it does. I think it really does.
Okay, so I talked to Matt Commons yesterday, and he said the business personal property tax, what their reform on that is currently on hold than what they were originally proposing. Have you guys heard that?
Well, I guess what he was originally proposing, did break all the 30% floor.
It might very well be.
So if you look at the note below there, the original thought was to eliminate the 30% floor completely. And what the 30% floor is right now is that when companies file their personal property equipment, they file their own form with the county assessor's office, and it goes for a depreciated value. And they go through each years of equipment that they invest, but they never pay less than 30% of cost. So it doesn't matter if a farmer has a tractor that's 10 years old and it's depreciated to 10% of its cost. They're going to still pay taxes on 30% of that cost of that equipment. Same thing for manufacturing equipment. The thought was to get rid of that completely, so there's no form. Well, my thought was to get rid of personal property tax completely. And what they settled on for right now is that any new equipment invested this year, so after January 1, 2025, would not be subject to the 30% floor. So it's going to be a gradual increase in that deduction. And that was one thing that we fought very hard with the legislators. If you eliminate personal property, or at least eliminate the 30% floor rate existing equipment, you're going to devastate the tax base. Because I haven't looked at Dallas County, but a lot of counties, a large portion of your tax base is made with equipment. So this was kind of okay, we're not going to touch the existing tax base, but any equipment going forward will allow them to depreciate with that amount. My concern, though, is now you're just incentivizing companies to replace their old equipment with new equipment, then now they fall under this new rule. So it's a matter of time for all that old equipment's gone. And you have this new equipment that's not going to be subject to the forward, you're going to see an increase in tax base. The other thing here that I think that is very, we're getting conflicting information. That last sentence here is very important. It's going to be very important for the auditor's office and assessor's office, as it says, except for taxpayers and existing tip area. So this is saying that if you have a company that's located in a tip area, that they're still subject to the rigor floor, even the new equipment. Most companies don't know whether they're in the tip area or not, unless you create a tip area specifically for that company. So that's something that I don't know how we're going to notify those companies. And I don't know if that was the original intent, that the intent was there's a number of tip areas out there that capture personal property for designated taxpayers, help pay off bonds. And I think they just didn't want to put those bonds with jeopardy. So they just wanted to just, and we know when you're a company's in a tip area, not all companies are captured. It's just we have to designate which one. I think that was the intent, but the way the law is written is that if you're in a tip area, you get to get a purchase for on new and later. So that's something I think from the auditors, that's something we should probably talk about at the auditors conference, because that's going to be a huge nightmare for your office. It be that mass confusion too, because like I said, most companies don't know whether they're in a tip area or not, and not know what follow. But again, the common thing is this is going to, I think, decrease your tax base over time. It's going to increase tax rates, increase your rate. I've given this kind of presentation on these talks a couple of times in the public conference already. They at the very end asked me, do I have any good news? And I don't have much. I guess the two pieces of good news that they kind of have is one, you can see that's kind of phased in over time. So hopefully we'll have some maybe correction. There's some new legislation that's going to have offset some of these losses we're going to see. The other thing on page 5, it's kind of good news. The maximizing growth quotient, they did cap it again at 4% for 2026. And normally I'd say that's not good news, because if we base it upon the formula that we've been accustomed to for the last couple of years, we should see your budget will increase by 5.6%. If you look at the 6-year average of non-farm income. But as you know, they capped it at 4% the last couple of years. There was talk they were going to cap it at 0% for 2026. So they pulled back from that, at least gave us a 4% increase. And then after 2026, unless they come back and change it next year, we go back to the 6-year average. So that's at your purchasing and talk about your budget. That's something that we'll want. You can assume a 4% increase in 2026. And then 2029, if you want to increase it by more than what you did the previous year, there's just another public hearing that the council is going to have to if they want to increase their budget more than this prior year. That's a few years out, but I didn't want to put that in. So based upon that information, I just kind of wanted to illustrate what it actually might mean for Talbot County. Because really every parcel that you kind of talk about, with 1%, 2%, 3%, they're all going to be treated a little bit differently depending upon deduction, where they're located in the county. So to do a rural analysis, you do a parcel by parcel analysis of the entire county, see what the full impact is. But I kind of want to just show you the illustration, big picture, what the impact, this should look like. So what I did was on page 7, I looked at the county's funds, 2025, looked at your certified property tax levies. So your 4 or 5 months that you have, you collect about $5.7 million in property taxes. Your 2005 net assessed value, about $1.3 billion. So this is all the assessed value in the county: real property, rental property, agricultural equipment, manufacturing facilities. It's not tip areas. And it shows that for 2025, you needed to adopt a rate of 0.4316, about 43 cents, to be able to fund your budget.
So what I did was the 2031, when, the full impact of Senate Bill 1 comes to fruition. I just assumed you're certified property tax laws, I just assumed a 4% increase every year for 2031. So we're showing in 2031, your budget payable for property tax has grown to a little over $7 million. The net assessed value, I just pulled this out of the air. There was no really scientific method. I just assumed what if your assessed value was 80% of what it is now because of all those deductions.
Right.
Now, granted, hopefully, assessed value because of printing are going to decrease over time, but we don't know that for a fact, and that may offset some of this deductions. Well, let's just say your tax base is 80% of what it is now. Instead of having to levy a 43-cent tax rate, we're going to have to levy a 66-cent tax rate. They will fund that $7 million budget. And then some of your funds, like your QCAP development fund and your King Bridge, those are kind of rate driven, especially your QCAP development. So it's maxed at the 0.03 cents. So as your tax base changes, that changes how much you can collect there. So if your tax base decreases by 8%, then your revenue that you can collect from your CCD fund also decreases by 7%.
So in your example though, like currently we're at a 0.43.
Yeah.
But that's on a $240,000 house that's currently net assessed at $120,000. So if we increase to the 0.66 in 2031, but you're only on $80,000, correct? So that
Example of that later.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the net to the citizens is not that huge increase.
I
don't want to scare people.
Where you're at. So that you're-
Okay.
You're exactly right.
Okay.
Page 8. Again, my fear for the county is that, I know it's like work the record, but my fear is that you're going to see an increase in sort of rate, which is mean less revenue that you're going to have available to fund your existing services. So I just showed in 2025, again, that $5.7 million property tax levy that you have in place. But you guys are, because your tax rates are really low throughout the county, you only lose about 2%. $115,000 per circuit breaker law. That's a very low. A lot of counties are double digits. They just go collecting $5,585,000. But if you turn to page 9, I looked at just for a $200,000 house. In 2025, after that $48,000 deduction, the sub-bill deduction, the homeowner is really only paying $95,000. Taxes on $95,000 of their assessment. I just do Mount Attica. The tax rate is $2.72. Their tax bill is $2,590. The county does have a property tax replacement credit that helps reduce property taxes. Their tax bill reduces by $160 because of the cap, 1% cap. The homeowner is not going to pay more than 1% of that $200,000. They're not going to pay more than $2,000. So they also receive a circuit breaker credit of $484 to get in that $2,000 bill. Now in 2031, again, assuming that $200,000 house doesn't change, it's just still the same amount. Now our net assessed value is only $66,600. But because all of them talked about, I would not be surprised if the tax rate for Attica increases significantly in that time because of all the decreases in the tax base. So again, I assumed about a 40% increase. So that's $3.80. So here we're showing that, with a decrease in the net assessed value, the increase in tax rate, their tax bill is still $2,530. PTRC amount is going away, which I'll talk about later. So then there's a $530 circuit breaker credit this taxpayer is going to receive because again, they're not going to pay more than $2,000. But they also get another credit of the lesser of $300 or 10% of their net tax bill. So once they get a $2,000 calculation of their tax bill, they'll get a $200 credit. So they're only going to pay $1,800. Another benefit to the taxpayer. But if you go to the next page, In 2025, the taxpayer is receiving a $484 circuit breaker credit. Get to that $2,000 cap. Of that $484, the county would lose about $77. And now they're going to lose that $530 from the circuit breaker plus that $200 of additional credit they get afterwards. So now we're going to get a $730 credit, which the county's portion is about $150. So that's my concern with Senate Bill 1 from the county's perspective and in cities and towns. That this is where my fear is because we're going to see an increase in circuit breaker loss over time and therefore less revenue for your budget. And I wanted to show you kind of the details. It is complicated. There's a lot of variables, but I thought this might help kind of see how it's all going. Before I go on, I'd be happy to answer any questions, but I know there's a lot here. Page 11. I know the county doesn't have any tip areas, but there are some tip areas within the county. And Tim, I don't know, we help with visualization worksheets, and that's something the auditor's office is responsible for. Because of this increase in tax rates, you think that the tip areas might get a windfall, the increase in revenue. I mean, they're going to whatever taxpayers are included in the tip areas, they're going to have to send in tax deductions and homesteads. Values, the increase in exemptions for apartments. But Senate Bill 1 said that the tip areas can't see any positive impact in tax rates because of Senate Bill. So they have to neutralize that. That's, as you can see, how complicated. I'm not sure Neil is going to do that. And Kim, I don't know if that's something you're going to be responsible like we are now for the base adjustments. But that's something that yet to be seen. That's something that we're being offered to help DLG come up with this new method. So one of my fears, as you know, we work with tip areas too. I don't want them to go too much the other way and decrease the amount of tip that we're anticipating. Because it's going to be a complicated set of assumptions. But I mean, we don't want to be more than what they're supposed to either. But we don't even want to get through. The next section is on consent bill 1 is the change in the local impact. They bring that upside down and shift it around as well. I get that. Again, are there any questions on the property tax piece? Like I said, I know there's been a lot of changes. For the local income tax, I wanted to first start and kind of explain where Hennepin County is right now. So at the top, I show you how much you're collecting in 2025. Right now, you have certified share, public safety, edit, and then also the special purpose rate. In the bottom there, I showed because there are certain maximums that we can adopt. So certified shares, you have a 1% rate, public safety of 0.25, economic development of 0.2, so a total of 1.45. Right now, the maximum rate that the county can adopt is 2.5 at these expenditure rates. So you have 1.05% of capacity, basically. You can increase any of these, even if you don't have any local income tax or any measure additional, you could levy any of those up to 2.5%. And again, you're only for 1.45 now. So you have lots of capacity there. You also have a property tax relief rate of 0.1%. Again, that's just to help reduce property taxes. So it's basically people are paying income taxes into the pot to help reduce the property taxes. And then, as you know, you have a special purpose rate for the jail of 0.55%. And there's no limit. And just what what you asked for in one space, right? So your total tax rate is 2.1%. Currently. So you turn to page 13, always look on how counties kind of want to see where they rank amongst the other counties. So I put this slide together for you. This lists all 92 counties. You can see on one side it's Porter County, the lowest rate in the state at 0.5%. And then on the right side is Randolph County. You can kind of see, I think the average is about 1.81, 1.91. You're just a little above above average. On the total tax rate that you have. Now, in 2028, that's going to completely change. So this is, from the council's perspective, we'll need to make a decision in 2027 for revenue received in 2028. Basically, everything that you are familiar with and I just told you about, that's all gone. Now, if you kind of look at this chart, there's just going to be one county rate. There won't be the public safety, there won't be the edit, there won't be the certified shares. There's just be one rate that you can collect up to 1.2%. And that'd be again tax on everyone in the county, as well as the counties. So there'll be one bucket one. You're still going to keep your 0.55 special purpose rate for the jail. That's separate. That's above the 1.2. That's special legislation. But all your other little expenditure buckets has to be 1.2.
Okay,
So we go from 2.1 to 1.2 plus the, well, no. 2.1 minus the 5.5.
Well,
So it's decreasing.
it is because now, if you also look though, 1.2 goes all to the county. So like right, you think about right now, that certified shares that you have, you pull up that, then you got to share it with the cities and towns and the townships. The public safety,
we have to share that
we share
too,
the cities
and
and
then see that.
just 1.2 is
We
all
don't share.
shared.
Okay,
Okay.
Then the fire protection, so you go to the next column over. And kind of at the very bottom, fire district territories, that's one thing that I know I work with a lot of counties. Councils are starting a lot of requests for them asking for public safety funds. The legislators asked, said that they can come to the council and get it up to their own 0.4%. Again, that's taxed on everyone in the county. Townships and libraries, they can get up to 0.2, but again, they have to come to the county and ask. Municipalities under 3,500, to be under 60 pounds with a population of 3,500, they can come to the county and ask for distribution up to 1.2%. And the real kicker is that the next box is municipalities over 3,500, they have their own 1.2% rate. So those cities with populations above 3,500, those councils will have the ability to adopt their own lit rate up to 1.2. So I'm guessing after having 3,000.
No, they're getting close. I talked to the mayor yesterday. They have 3,300.
What city or county you have over 3,500?
I don't
Attic
think.
is the largest.
Attic's the largest.
What if they added this at 3,500? That council could adopt their own 1.2% rate, so people living in Attica would be paying, let's say they go to the max, the county goes to the max. They could be paying a 1.2 city local tax rate and a 1.2 county local tax rate. But the city is to keep all of them.
Right.
So that's where it's going to be very important. And I said this doesn't start until 2028, so you don't have to make a decision until 2027. But I would definitely look at, because from your perspective, you want to know of that, 2.1% that you're collecting $6.7 million. One new rate of that 1.2, and we need to levy to get that same 6.6. It's going to be less, hopefully. In your case, it probably will be because you don't have to share it with anyone.
Right.
But there are some counties that I'm concerned with because a lot of the ATI is based upon the district income, and counties are going to be in those bigger cities. So will they be able to adopt enough rates to get what they were previously? It's going to be case by case.
What we need to do is look at the 1.45.
Yes.
And then see if the 1.2, since we're not going to have to share with the cities, towns, townships, if that's going to be the same amount. Because we do pay a lot of money to cities and towns, probably public safety and the city.
Yes, if you do have contracts with the city and town, that may be something that you may need to start renegotiating.
Well, we don't. That's we pay their 911 and all that, and still give them all that money from Cedar. and public safety.
So I think I'm recommending your clients, again, you know, it's a couple years away, kind of look at this now. One, because of Senate Bill 1, you know, and we did a kind of a comprehensive financial plan for a couple years ago, and it showed that, you know, if you spend 100% of your budget, that was sustainable. Might have to see changes in the near future anyway, but Senate Bill 1, that was just going to speed that process up. That's what I'm thinking. And so it may be look careful to look at your budget as you're looking at 2026 current plan. Again, the impacts that Senate Bill 1 won't be as great 26 as it's going to be 28, 29, 30.
Right.
But you may need to look at increasing something now and then making the increases as big as 28.
Right,
Yeah.
do a gradual tick.
Is the 1.2 for county services, that is all of that going into county general?
That I remember finding that out. I heard different things, whether it goes all in county general or if it's going to be a separate bucket.
Okay, because like, you know, the sheriff's department, we pay out public safety, but if that all goes into county general, then that's gonna change our budget.
Yeah.
So, okay.
So and the county services, the fire protection, the non-municipal, and the over 3,500, it can't be more than, or I guess the first three can't be more than 1.7%. Because if you add up county services, fire protection, and the non-municipal, like the libraries, if you look at that data, add up to 1.8. So something's going to have to give a little bit.
It can only go to what, 1.7?
And then all of them can't be more than 2.9. So no one in the county can pay more than 2.9. The other thing that is going to impact you guys is that property tax replacement credit that you currently have, it goes away in 2028. So you no longer have that.
Right.
That 1% that you're currently collecting, which is going to be good for on the local income side, because taxpayers get less local income taxes. As I showed, that's there to help reduce property taxes. So again, if you remember on the illustration, we showed a $100 reduction in property taxes. And we didn't show that until 31, that because that part of it's going away as well.
And that leaves in 2031,
28.
28.
28.
You can adopt up to 0.3% local income tax for 26 and 27. If you look at the number more. So if you did want to try to increase the even more benefit to homeowners, you could increase local income tax more years. If that's something, again, legislators want to try to do another ability to reduce property taxes for a couple of years. I don't know if many people take that because you're already seeing the personal taxpayer are going to see benefit. But it's at your option. And then I put on here the effective date. Again, if you're looking at the changing local income taxes, and this doesn't change going in the future. If you want to change something and have the change in revenue be received by 2026, you have to make a decision by October 31st. We'll talk about that.
Trying to get at the budget adoption.
And I do have some clients, you see that first when you develop January 1, 2020 to August 31, 2020, does become effective to October 1, still sees the new revenue 26. Between September and October, it's effective January 1. Then effective means that that's when taxpayers actually start seeing the kind of check and out of checks. So I have had some clients wait until after September, just so taxpayers don't see it out of January. And that also doesn't give you time to make changes. The other thing that on page 16 that was a kind of significant change was the referendum process. If you're looking at issuing bonds. Now, this has always been the case. Eligible units for cities, towns, counties, and schools always had that ability. Specified a proposed rate amount to be raised, that's always been up there. And now you only do even number of years in general election, so they reduced the how often you can do referendum bonds. Restrictions if you're unsuccessfully at 22 years, unless the citizens file a petition. And there's some more restrictions on schools. The other thing that I wanted to really hit home, I think, Cobb County doesn't issue much debt, some other entities do. But now, if your total property tax bond debt rate is over a certain amount, it automatically pushes into a referendum. So for cities, counties, and towns, if your combined tax rate that you need to pay off your bonds is more than 20%, that would put you in the potential referendum process. So that was a big change. And all other units that 10 cents, I can see, some townships, airports, libraries, some of those may get that 10% threshold. Based on the current tax rate, and you might be. So there's something else that we'll have to think about with the issue bonds. And then the last schedule. I did want to talk about something else that was talked about a lot, was the community crossing match and will tax. I can't remember, Scott County have will tax. So I don't have to get to the max anymore. I think part of the point of the discussion is to get to the max. But you do have to have the will tax to get funding. There's restrictions, and then like cities and towns. There's some additional funding that is available above kind of what the states originally received. They're saying that you can't qualify for that additional funding unless you do have will tax.
Yes, my brother-in-law is the mayor of Attica.
Okay.
So we talked about this extensively yesterday at breakfast, and they are considering adopting a will tax.
Yeah.
And so that will diminish what we get as a county when that city adopts that?
I think,
or is it in addition
it's
to?
addition.
Okay,
It's an addition. Got it. That was some unclarity about that, but also know so the county will have its school tax, the city will have its.
in Covington, you could do the same thing. As well, okay. So then that brings me back around to, do they have to ask permission to do that? According to, or does that start at a,
For the will tax,
yes,
that's my will account to work that I don't.
because it doesn't fall under this, I forget what slide it was,
And the lit note is separate.
separate, okay.
How's that? Yeah, I can find it.
We just want to know what our role is going to be.
Yeah.
You don't.
It would go retroactive.
Yeah, I'll look that up. I had something for name that I was looking at, but it doesn't specify, so I'll.
Okay.
Any other questions?
We're gonna talk about that.
Yeah, I think I think the key is that you guys have done this in the past. I think just, planning for the future and what this is gonna have for the impact. Like I said, it's not gonna happen overnight, but it's going to plan out.
Well, we don't want to be in a situation when everything kicks in and we're sitting here like deer in headlights and we haven't prepared enough.
Yeah. But I know when I was, during session, we were getting a lot of questions, usually from lobbyists and bond attorneys, when they were trying to, being on behalf of the, the AIC and AIM, talking about whether the legislation is good or bad. One of the common things, I don't think common, but some things are, some counties have very healthy cash balance. And, we'll make sure you don't take these hits. And one of the things that I pointed out was, you can't really look, it's not fair to look at your cash balances right now, because this is such a unique time, because you got ARPA funds that help probably drive up down. I can't remember your particular county, but then I know that helped drive up a lot of cash balances because of the projects that you would normally spend, or even some operating, you want to spend, you go fund that out of ARPA funds. And then interest earnings probably received a lot more interest earnings in the last couple of years than you have in the past. So that really inflated cash balances higher than what they normally would have. So that's why you can't really look at that. That's really misleading.
Yeah, it's skewed. For sure.
And then one of the things that we were asked to look at was special purpose rate, your outstanding bonds. We're asked what that was something that the county could eliminate or reduce. And I remember we had this conversation a couple of years ago, and I called the bond council, and the way the bond document is written, the county is not allowed to reduce or eliminate that rate of bond or outstanding.
Okay,
But
well, I was just gonna say, the proposed amendment was to allow us to reduce it and put it in EMS, but the final version, that was taken out. The only thing the final version that passed was that we could, if we have a healthy balance, which we do, we have over $7 million in there. Last year we collected 2.7 and our bond payments is 1.1. It said we could take a one-time transfer of that money and put it into county general to use for EMS.
is that new legislation?
Yes, it's Senate Bill 453.
Okay, I'm sorry, I wasn't worried about. Okay.
So here's what they mean, the proposed was to allow us to change it and move, but what was passed was that Fountain County Special Lit. The bill provides that if the county council of Fountain County determines that the county jail revenue fund, the jail fund, contains excess reserves, the county council may, before January 1st, 2026, adopt a resolution to make a one-time transfer from the jail fund to the county general fund to be used only for emergency management services within the county. So now I guess our only question is there anything in the bonds that says that we can't take a one-time transfer out of there?
I want to double check that. I don't think there is. I think they just language you can't eliminate or reduce it.
Okay. And which we're not going to do now because the legislation wasn't changed, but I mean, we've got more than enough. And I was just figuring,
Yeah,
even if we took every bit of that out right now, at the end of this year, we're still going to, and we have 12 years left in the bonds, we're still going to end up with $18 million extra.
yeah. I'm showing that if you didn't take a one time, you didn't take any money out, by the end of 2026, you all have that money to pay the bonds off.
Right. But at that interest rate, I don't think we want to pay our bonds off. Because it's going to eliminate that fund and there's 18 million that.
Yeah. The only thing that I would think about is, again, once you look at your budget and figure out where you are, where you need to be, it'd be nice to be able to eliminate this 0.55% local income tax. And in that way, if you need to raise your, not only are you going to be 1.2 max to fund your current operating, but you might need to increase it some. If we could reduce this 0.55 or eliminate it, and then we increase the other one by 0.2, or whatever we need help you fund your operating, from the taxpayer standpoint, they're going to see a tax benefit.
Right. They will, but if we can transfer even $6 million into this year.
Yeah.
Our ambulance budget is $2 million a year, but that takes 3 years out of our county general. We can use to put towards it. We need a new county highway garage. We can use that money, and that's my only question is if the bonds say anything about taking a transfer, and I don't
think it is. I'll look at that.
Okay.
And we have to figure out here, you do have a healthy, but you can take a pretty significant amount.
Yeah.
Not jeopardize.
We have almost 8 million in there right now, and
Well, I talked to Matt last night about it too, and he indicated there wasn't any language in the bond that said we couldn't
I don't think,
do that.
I'd be surprised if it was, just because you never like with that kind of, so sometimes we say you can reduce it. As long as you don't follow 125% coverage. But in this particular, I remember looking at this, we can't reduce it. They just said reduce it, they say,
Can I say that?
Okay,
especially that language. The special legislation that we did before. I'll double check the law.
Well, let me ask you this, is there a penalty if you pay that off early?
They're not followable until January 2028, so we can't follow them early. So what we could do is at the end of 2026, let's say we didn't have this, one time project expense. What we could do is at the end of 2027, you got all your money, we could put the money into escrow, about $10.1 million in escrow. And now we have to cover that payment for the next year. They are callable January 2028. And then we consider legally the fees, and that way we can get it tax rate. Because the legally, the bond would legally be outstanding.
Right.
So that's how we can do it. That we
But then
can't
you
pay the
would-
bond off till January 2028.
Right. But then if you pay it off early, it's a savings to the taxpayer, but we have the potential of losing $18 million. So,
because once they're paid off, whatever's left in there just goes into county general and that will pay a lot of bills.
Yeah, I can look to see where the excess goes in the county.
County general,
Yeah,
yes,
that's
and
what
be used for
Katie-
any expenses.
So that's true, if you wanted to keep the bonds outstanding, keep accumulating that surplus.
And there's nothing that would prevent us 5 years down the road, had the legislature put in another
Yeah, that's what
amendment.
I was thinking.
Okay.
To give it out.
Yeah, it doesn't get to 18 million, but
and tax revenue from said solar companies. If they do build and we'll have the tax revenue from that. So at that time, we can look at trading one for the other.
Yeah,
plus it saves us doing bonds for a county highway garage. And we know we're not gonna get that kind of rate.
Yeah.
Now for bonds for that, we can use this money to.
That is if we get to maintain the tax revenue from the solar. Away from us.
Well, I'm talking about the
The one
0.55, the special lid.
Okay,
We use that money, and not have to do bonds for
Sure.
the county highway garage.
Yeah.
And do some renovations here in the courthouse. And help pay for
the
that.
other benefit too, her perspective is this 0.55 is outside that 1.2.
Yes.
So if,
Exactly.
Senate bill hits us hard, where we have to 1.2 just to stay even. You look at that 0.55 outside that, you know, things you're talking about, so that puts you in a good place to have that flexibility.
Right.
So from that perspective, we probably wouldn't want to get rid of it. Until we have a better handle on
Senate Bill
how,
1.
I was gonna add that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
We don't know the true impact until a few years from now. Anybody else have any questions or?
I appreciate getting this. It's
Yeah.
really,
When did you say we had to finalize something to say how much we're gonna take out?
we have
Until
until
the end of the year.
December. Before January 1st, 2026. And there is we have to do a resolution and there's a whole bunch of stuff we have to put in that resolution. So we'll need to work with the attorney and make sure
Get
it's
that done.
written exactly the way the legislation is.
So maybe the meeting where we adopt the budget, we need to do the resolution because we always have to have that done by November 1.
Yeah.
We need to look
Let's
at
see,
it.
let's see how our
And then we'll
money
have an
comes in
idea.
this year and then we'll know what we can take that. And we'll have our payments made. What's July 1st? Kim, is that correct? We pay January 1 and then our second one, then we'll be done, so. And have we got all the bills for that grinders?
Mm-mm.
Yeah. Cause that's coming out of there,
Does anyone from the audience have any questions? Mr. Schrock?
Oh, yeah. I'm sure I followed all of that, but, that catch that maybe the tax relief for property tax or increase in income tax. Maybe paying increase income tax in order to have more of this property.
Well, I say it's gonna be case by case. But from the county's perspective, if homesteads pay less property taxes, that means less taxes to the county fees for property taxes. If they want to provide the same amount of services, they're gonna have to probably collect revenue from somewhere else. So it could potentially mean an increase in taxes. But it is a fact. But with the whole new restructure, the county may be able to be fine collecting what they need to with a lower local income tax rate, since they're going to be collecting all of it. Because now they have to share it with the city. But now the city is going to have their own local income tax rate. So it also will depend upon to live in the city or the county. Well, I guess agriculture, you know, don't meet that population threshold, right? So it's going to be, we're just going to recalculate everything, kind of see where the local income tax is going to increase or not, that will help offset loss of revenue. So again, please look at it.
So we don't know yet, really, it's just going to impact this overall tax rate.
And something else that I failed to mention, which is another key component of Pinnacle One, that local income tax. As you know, right now, once you pass it, that rate stays the same unless you change it. I understand the one, you'll have to make that decision every year and make that have a public hearing and adopt it every year. So it could change from year to year. Well, so that's another key component.
So when you were talking about business personal, let's just talk a solar farm for a second. Obviously, that's going to be assessed less, correct?
Well, typically we have in our agreements that there's a minimum assessment, or we even talked about if there's the 30% goes away, they have to make a pilot payment equal to what's when the 30% is still there. So hopefully in your current contract, you're protected. And that's something that's going forward, the new company doesn't be a new negotiation. But yeah. So that's something we will look at your current agreements to make sure that those two sections are in they should be. But we should try to have a minimum assessment and agree that. So it will all change.
Right, because most generally, unless somebody has something in their personal contract for their land with the company, is the individual that owns the property pays the land tax. The solar company or operator of said solar array pays for any improvement made to that parcel of land. So that's anything post-driven, the panels, inverters, battery storage, anything associated with that project.
Yep.
Okay.
And I can't remember the specific, but they also said there's an increase in land value, we will give the difference for that too.
Right.
Which is, that's probably a more significant amount, just going from agricultural to the solar. That's probably going to be the bigger expense.
Mm-hmm.
Solar.
The WIT for the county doesn't include schools. The schools have property taxes that are minimum, so they don't have it. So it's going to really hurt.
That's do you guys, I can't remember, you guys forward or cash it? Or you guys previously forward or cash it? Do you remember? Got it. So your school do receive some cash funds. That is going away. So yes, schools are going to be really because there was revenue there. They were having to historically it's going to be gone.
There's no extra revenue they can capture.
So I know that Yeah, you just recall on your budget, if there's anything that you need us to help or like update that plan that we did a couple of years ago. As I mentioned, that really do this calculation. Senate Bill 1, kind of do a parcel by parcel, and that's something that, we're working on, a new software to account for all these changes. So we get the database, the auditor's office, and try to recalculate that every year. It does something that can be helpful. We can do that for you.
Especially when you get to year 2027.
Yeah.
When everything starts really ramping up in 28, so. Well, we appreciate you coming today, both of you, and explaining it to us. Simply. Thank you. We appreciate your time. And moving forward. Is there anything any council member would like to say or talk about before public comment?
Let's talk about 911.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so I know last month, Dana talked to us about 911 and on the overtime and not having enough budgeted. So I came in here last week, sit down with her, and we went over everything. And I thought when we did their budget, what they work is 3 12-hour shifts 1 week, 4 the next. So they work actually 84 hours in a pay period. And so I thought it'd only be 4 hours overtime, so we may not have even figured this right for pay for each employee. But Garth was telling me that on the ambulance, like if they work 36 hours 1 week, 48 the next, 36 is the regular pay, but 48 week, all 8 hours overtime. Well, I think we were figuring on 84 hours in a 2 week pay period and only 4 hours. So we may not even figured that right. And what we budgeted was 20,000 in one. There's 3 accounts, 20,000 in one, 10 in another, and 13 in the third one, which is 43,000. Well, based on 4 hours overtime each pay for the deputy director, the 2 lead operators, and the 5 regular operators, that comes to 4,500 each month. So that's $59,533 just in overtime for the workers. That doesn't include personal sick vacation days, and that would be over 1,000 hours that we don't even have enough to cover the 59,000 for the personal sick vacation days, which would be another 47,000. So we're talking about $106,000 in overtime, and we budgeted 43. So she's going to need more money for overtime. And she talked to us about a floater position. And the floater position, if we did that, would be at $19 or $20 an hour. They'd work 36 hours a week, no benefits, no overtime, and that would help cover a lot of this overtime. If the lead or the regular operators, the deputy director work, they have to be paid time and a half. We paid this floater, that would take a lot of this off of our total overtime. And so we have approximately savings about $3,000 a month if we did a floater position. So it's just something to think about. I mean, we can't do that today, but
didn't Andrew propose something a while back about taking some time off, letting us have that money to help out these guys?
yeah, that was for the holiday.
Oh, got it.
And she does have someone who is interested in this floater position. What that? Yes, and that person could start right away if we wanted to do that. And that would save 36 hours a week of paying overtime, and the overtime rate is regular operators is $35 an hour, almost 37 for the 2 lead and 40 for the deputy director. You've been paying that floater $19 to $20 an hour. So cut it in half. So I don't think we can do that. Probably are we doing joint meeting next week?
Yes.
I don't think we
The
could.
18th.
I don't think we'd have time to advertise that, right? So I have to do it at our next month's meeting, but something to think about. And she is going to need that money, and there's that. And I don't know why we cut that budget to 43,000 on overtime for this year, because 2 years ago it was 79,000 we paid for overtime. So I mean,
Well, there was kind of some issues with that budget. There was more operators than there was supposed to be.
yeah.
Remember, we had to-
that Mr.
it was-
Winger,
Took one.
last year was our first time.
It's kind of messy.
And I
So
told her I'd help her this summer.
Well, and he eliminated a position.
that shouldn't have
When he did the
been-
budget.
Yeah,
Right.
And why he did the budget, I have no idea, but
yeah.
he did the budget and he eliminated an operator. So I think that's why we're in the conundrum that we're in.
Yeah.
Yes, Andrew.
Are they not on the public safety 160-hour 28 days? Just like we are, we want to save you everyone.
I'm sorry.
Public safety hour wage through the Federal Labor Standards Act. 168 hours in 28 days. Anything over that, the 168 and 171 is paid out in straight time, then 171 plus after 20 days is time and a half. That's how we do it.
So it's 168 hours paid out of where?
Straight time.
Straight time.
28-day pay period, 168 hours of straight time. You're on that 12-hour 223 schedule, that's the public safety schedule, you can look it up in the public safety.
Okay.
So maybe they shouldn't be getting overtime every 2 weeks is what you're saying. Yes,
That's,
then they should. Yeah.
that'll live, even measure.
That might be where the issues
Not
come.
paid anything extra until 168. 168 to 171 is what we call gap.
Understand.
It's paid out of straight time. And then 171 plus is time and a half. That's how we keep our overtime so low. If you got a lot of 10 grand a year overtime. But if they're on a 40-hour work week, they don't fall under that, then
Step.
that's what.
No, I don't think so either, but then the ambulance.
The ones in the ambulance and the.
Aaron, do you know how the ambulance is paid, what their schedule is? 1 week it's
either 9 or 10 days a month. So
But theirs is based on 40-hour overtime. Isn't it? That was the big issue with them.
48 1 week and then it's
72 the next.
Okay, so that's 120, be 240, so they would be in that over 171 hours.
There's a firefighter schedule and 44-hour schedule too, that is covered under FLSA that is 212 hours and 28 days. Thank you. According to our EMS doesn't run fire outfit, so they don't fall into that.
Right.
But that's only where our schedule is also covered that. That's all I said. It's 212 hours and 48 days, instead of 168, because they work 1 week. You can't take it to 12, you pay that.
So if they work 84 in a
Yeah,
2 week period, that'd be 168 in a month period, so. Yeah. Look at that.
Well, if you wanted, she can advertise for the commissioners to approve the floater at their next meeting. The first meeting of June. then we can. It can be advertised for us to do it on, at our meeting to approve.
Yeah.
Did you get that? Thank you. Are you guys all right with that?
I'm fine with advertising it, but I'd like to find out more about this 100.
Yes, the advertising,
Before we
yes.
decide if
Yeah.
that overtime is legitimate or not.
Right.
We'll have overtime for their sick vacation.
Right, I understand.
Yeah. 47,000.
So we gotta get a handle on all this.
Yeah.
The question, we are not moving or doing anything on the carpet bids until we get the wall bid more clear. Is that correct? Or
On the clerk and the,
and the judge, and yeah, wasn't she gonna get a wall bid first? Because we didn't want to move on the
Yes.
carpet until we had walls. correct?
yes, yes. And they are due to come, have they been here?
Yeah, he's working on his bid.
Yes, tradescraft.
Yeah,
Tradecraft is working on it.
their office, Patty.
Oh, no, there's in the one, as soon as you walk into the bathroom, that second room, there's a huge crack going across that wall. But it's new, I mean. Can't say how new, but it hasn't always been there. I don't think it's been there as long as I have, so.
That's a long time.
Right?
Okay, I guess I just have a few questions. Annex building,
He's waiting on a second appraisal right now, but
okay,
if we get that, it'll go up, it's.
okay,
Wow, it's.
perfect. Extension off ceiling, office ceiling. The extension office ceiling,
Yes. All we have to do is.
okay. Dudley and I talked about that safe, that safe may have to be taken apart to get it out. I don't know. It may be too heavy to put in the elevator. I have no idea. They may build the courthouse around it for all I know.
Probably do banks, they build around it.
Let's see here. I think that's all I had. Patty, do you have anything for us? Andrew, do you have anything for us? Anyone else have anything for us? On the 15th, May 15th, the meeting at Greencastle, DePaul. Is anyone else going to attend the meeting?
So did you make me a reservation? Okay.
Also, I didn't get an email for the budget class. I don't know, I'm assuming they got the reservation.
I'd like to go to the budget class.
Yeah, you wanted to go?
Yeah.
I don't know about you. Jeff did too.
Okay.
Okay, also, I believe it's the 22nd of June. There is a state called meeting by the SBOA. It happens every year. It's at the Renaissance in Carmel. If you plan on attending, talk to Ken, she'll get you signed up. Most counties do attend that. They don't say that it's mandatory, but I think it's the 22nd.
21st, I think,
20th.
first.
It's the 20th. It's the 20th and the 21st.
Friday, Saturday.
There's also a budget
Friday,
budget
Saturday.
class on the 20th. It's the second one that follows up this one on the 15th. And they are going to talk about SB1 among other things probably at both meetings, but I know at the June meeting. So there's that. You guys have anything else? Can I get a motion to close the meeting? Oh, Mr. Schrock, I'm sorry.
I asked, Karen to send out an email to everybody about the notes for the, watching a video on CO2.
Yes.
I hope everybody's had a chance to look at it. that will go off around the first 22nd, that means free and watching. So
Okay.
if you have a chance to look at those that CO2 pads coming to our area, yeah, and so.
Great, thank you.
What time's the joint meeting on Monday?
Monday, the 19th.
Time,
It's 6.
6 P.M.
I think, is it an evening meeting, Aaron? Yeah, 6 p.m.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So we will be doing that meeting on the 19th at 6 p.m. here with the commissioners.
Oh,
If it was a snake, it would have bit you.
okay.
Isn't that how the saying goes?
Yeah, okay. Good reading. Vote to adjourn.
May I get a motion to adjourn the meeting? Dudley? And may I get a second?
Second.
Todd? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. 7-0. Thank you, everyone, for coming.
Dudley, can you repeat those numbers? Discussion. So